Jesus' trust in God. He trusted in God. Matthew 27:43. We want to understand Jesus as he truly was. It's surprising that we don't know him better, considering how clearly he is portrayed in the Gospels. The story of Jesus has become so familiar to us that it has lost its impact on our minds. We have heard about Jesus since we were children, listened to many teachers and preachers talk about him, and as a result, our minds have become desensitized to him. Many of us have studied the Bible in a fragmented way, only focusing on isolated passages and never piecing together the different parts to see Jesus as a real person among others. We may have noticed one aspect of his character or fixated on one bright, shining quality, but missed the bigger picture and overlooked the greatness of who he truly was. Our goal in these studies is to see Jesus as the people of his time saw him. We have already discovered that Jesus had strength and joy, and now we need to dig deeper and find out where these qualities came from. How was he so confident in every situation? How did he manage to be happy despite facing many challenges? The answer to these questions is clearly written in the New Testament. His strength and joy came from his unwavering trust in God. If you were to ask me what was most important about Jesus' character, I would say it was his trust in God. It was the foundation of his life. It was like the air he breathed, the music that played in his conversations, and the source of all his inspiration. Even his enemies acknowledged this. When Jesus was dying on the cross, people mocked him and said hurtful things. Surprisingly, among those who ridiculed him were members of the religious leadership in Palestine. Their ultimate insult was saying, "He trusted in God." This shows us just how much Jesus' trust in God influenced his teachings and actions. If you ask me for examples of Jesus' trust, I would be overwhelmed because there are so many. In any part of the Gospels you look, you will find evidence of Jesus' trust in God. When he was just a boy, he told his mother, "Didn't you know I must be about my Father's business?" And his last words on the cross were, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." From beginning to end, his trust in God never wavered. He was always a man of prayer. In important moments of his life, such as his baptism and the Transfiguration, in the Garden of Gethsemane, and even on the cross, he poured out his soul to God. Before every significant action, in the midst of every difficult situation, and after completing every stage of his work, he would pray. While prayer was common among the people of Palestine, no one prayed like Jesus did. His prayers were sincere, earnest, and filled with boundless trust. People would gather around him in awe and ask, "Teacher, teach us how to pray." Although Hebrew children were taught to pray from a young age, when they heard Jesus pray, they realized they had never truly prayed before. Jesus referred to God as Father, a name that few had ever used to address God before. Jesus consistently thought and spoke of God as a loving and merciful Father. Trusting in the goodness and mercy of God brought him immense joy, and his greatest desire was to encourage others to trust in God as well. Jesus has a lot to teach us right now. People often think that believing in God is easy, but the truth is, it can be really difficult, especially in certain times and situations. It's easy to say that you trust in God, but actually doing it when things seem unfair and love seems to be gone is really tough. When we look at nature, we can find things that make it hard to believe in a loving God. Nature can seem cruel and heartless. Fire burns, water drowns, and volcanoes destroy cities without mercy. Nature doesn't seem to care about what people want or need. Many great thinkers have been shocked by nature's lack of compassion and indifference. But Jesus saw something different in nature. He saw it as proof of God's love. Other people might see the sunshine shining on both good and bad people and think that God doesn't know or care. But Jesus saw it as evidence of God's big heart. The rain falls on both the farm of the person who disrespects God and the farm of the person who serves God. Not because God doesn't care about their character, but because he is so good that his love covers all of his children. Just like a parent lets a disobedient child sit at the table with their obedient siblings, God feeds both the good and the bad, the fair and the unfair, without showing anger, hoping that every heart will surrender. To Jesus, nature is a powerful witness that shines with light and continuously shows how wide God's mercy is. But if nature seems indifferent and cruel, What can we say about history? History is where the tragic stories of human life unfold. It's a jumble of mysteries and a mass of sorrows. Every century is filled with pain, and every age is stained with blood. When we see innocent people suffering, oppressed people crying out, and good and pure people being killed, we can't help but wonder, does God know? Does God care? It seems like evil always wins. Dishonesty overpowers honesty, injustice rules over justice, and hate defeats love. This happens not just once, but thousands of times. Some people read these dark and terrible stories and lose their faith in God, but Jesus sees the same things and interprets them differently. He sees good people offering their help to the world, only to be rejected and harmed. Some are stoned, beaten, and killed. Their dead bodies pile up. But to Jesus, this doesn't mean that God doesn't care. It's proof of his patience and his unwillingness to lose anyone. That's why he keeps sending prophets, apostles, heroes, and saints into the world to share heaven's message with confused and sinful people. But if nature and history make it hard for us to trust in God, our own personal experiences can be even more challenging. Many people have trusted in God for years, only to discover that their faith isn't strong enough when bad things happen. Even the best and strongest people, when faced with misfortune, have to reevaluate their faith. They become shocked and confused, not knowing where to turn or what to think. This is what happened to Job. He had complete faith in God, or so he thought. But when he lost his children, his wealth, and his health, he lay on the ground in misery, crying out to God in pain, unable to see him anywhere. Many things can make us lose our trust in God. Disappointments can do it. Our biggest dreams can fall apart, and our most important ambitions can fail. One disappointment after another can happen until we feel defeated and hopeless, and our hope is gone. Persecution can also break our faith in God. The inhumanity of others can turn our hearts bitter. When people misunderstand and misrepresent us, when they are hostile and unfaithful, when they show contempt and scorn, it becomes almost impossible to believe that God is in control of the world. Some men are defeated by failure. They find nothing as satisfying as success. They give their best years and all their abilities to achieve success, but despite their efforts, success eludes them. At the end of the day, they admit defeat. In their bitterness, they question, where is God? Jesus of Nazareth experienced all the darkest moments that a person's soul can endure. He had a purpose that consumed his mind and heart. He had a vision that filled him with enthusiasm, and a message that he believed would bring light and happiness to the world. He went to Jerusalem to share it, but the door was shut in his face. He preached in the synagogues of Galilee, but the people rejected his message. He then proclaimed it on the streets of major cities, but the crowds quickly dispersed. In the end, only 12 men remained by his side, and even they were uncertain, prompting him to ask, "Will you also leave?" He devoted himself passionately to these 12 men, pouring his very life into their souls. However, the boldest among them turned coward, and one of the most trusted became a traitor. When a crisis arose, they all deserted him and fled. Despite his disappointment, Jesus never lost faith in God. Amidst the storm, he kept his torch burning and declared, "Take heart, I have overcome the world." He faced persecution like no other before or since. He was slandered, abused, and hated. He was accused of blasphemy and treason, yet he maintained a pure heart. People struck him and insulted him, showing ingratitude and hatred. But he uttered, "Shall I not drink the cup my Father has given me?" Finally, he failed. He failed to achieve the goal he had devoted all his abilities to, the goal for which he had fervently prayed. We often forget that the earthly life of Jesus was a failure. We focus on what has happened since his death and perceive his success. However, we must never forget that on the day of his death, his life was a terrible and heart-rending failure. Injustice triumphed over justice, wickedness over goodness, and hatred over love. He tried to persuade the world to accept a beautiful truth, but the world rejected him. In the midst of his great defeat, he still turned to God, saying, "Not my will, but yours be done." Defeat could not deter him or make him retreat. If it was necessary, he willingly accepted being sacrificed, being trampled by those thirsting for his blood, if it was the will of the Almighty. There has never been a man like him. Other great and powerful men have lived and worked, but none like Jesus of Nazareth. John the Baptist was mighty, but he faltered when the winds blew. Simon Peter was strong, but he began to sink when the storm raged. Yet Jesus of Nazareth, in the midst of the most violent storm that darkened the skies and shook the earth, remained steadfast, looking towards God and declaring, "Not my will, but yours be done." Look across the ages and observe the great men, how they are swayed and tossed by the winds and storms. But above them all, this man from Galilee stands like a majestic mountain, his serene head outlined against the blue sky.